Well, I tried to upload this video once, but apparently there was no sound. I guess you guys are gals getting picky now. You want sound with the videos too, I guess. What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome into round two of the Seattle Mariners post-game recap. Mariners win this one tonight, 5-2 behind a magnificent performance tonight from Bryan Woo. Takes a perfect game into the seventh inning, 8 outs away from it. The Mariners do get a crucial win. Before I dive any further into it, do me a favor, hit that like button. It helps the algorithm a lot, helps the channel out. Thank you guys and gals so much for doing that. Comment your thoughts down below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. About 30% of my views are still from people not subscribed. So you're just kind of lurking, watching the videos. Hit that sub button, about 55 subs away from 4,200. Would love to get there before the end of the season. We'll get to Bryan Woo, who was absolutely fantastic, dominant tonight, and really continues to make a case for the best pitcher in this rotation. And they're going to need him more so than ever now. I forgot to mention yesterday, but Luis Castillo going on the IL. But the Mariners do get to 3.5 back in the American League West with this victory tonight. They're also 4 back in the wild card. And while I kind of think the teams in the wild card aren't as good as the Astros, you don't have the tiebreaker in the wild card. You've got more teams you have to leapfrog. I think it's going to be a tougher task with the wild card. Whereas with the AL West, listen, there's one team you got to leapfrog. It's Houston. It's a team that, listen, if you're going to win the division, you're going to have the tiebreaker over them, and you play them 3 more times. The path is there, right? Like I feel like, again, and I really try not to do it, but I think it's just part of talking about the game every night. And I'm going like this with the emotions. Last night I'm kind of back to being like, 2 days ago I'm like, hey, and now I'm kind of back to hey. But one thing I've kind of repeated and talked about with this team is that if you can get to that Houston series, I think it's the second to last series of the year, 2 or 3 games back, you've got that shot. You've put yourself in a position where if you can sweep that series, you will be in first place. Even now at 3.5, I think Houston's the team that plays one more game than you do. They lose that, you're going that series with a shot. And that's all you can ask for right now, right? Again, it's not ideal. It's not where we wanted the team to be at the beginning of the year or even into June, but it's your best case scenario right now for making a run here. And at least you can get to that series. It's going to have a playoff atmosphere, a playoff vibe, and you've got that chance in front of you to do it. So, listen, I'd love to get to that series and better than 2 or 3. Love to have it at 1-0 with the lead. But what do you play? 9 games between now and that series. And you got to remember, too, there's going to be days when Houston wins and you might lose. So if you can 2 or 3 is fine. I don't want to be greedy. I'd love to have it lower than that, but the odds are probably against it. And listen, one of the reasons for this with the emotions is where this team is at, right? They're teetering. They're teetering on the edge. And when you're teetering like that, it's going to sway back and forth, right? This as good as it feels right now, and just in terms of just not the context of the oral season, but hey, made it to 3.5. You lose the next 2 games, Houston wins the next 2, you're 5.5, and you probably feel dead again with this team. It's where they're at in the standings, and they have nobody to blame but themselves for that with their collapse, essentially. But that's what's going to happen when you have a season like this. Your emotions, I know I'm not the only one that changes every day. I'm sure a lot of you go through it too, like done, then you go, oh, hey, you know what, back, maybe we got a shot. And then you go back to done, then back to have a shot. It's because where they're at in the standings, that there's not a lot of margin for error right now. So when they lose and other teams win, it's going to feel like the season is done. And each time you do lose and the other teams win, it is a little bit of a dagger to your season. So, but hopefully they can continue to win, and Houston will drop a couple more, and you go in with a shot. But like I said, if you're 2 or 3 back, I think 2 would be more ideal because you could still get away with the series win there and have a shot the last weekend. 3 back, there's almost no other option but sweeping the series. But you may, regardless, be in a position where you have to sweep it anyways. But let's get there first. Let's focus on tonight. And tonight, the story of the game was Bryan Woo, who, again, just continues to make a case for being the best pitcher on the staff. It's been an issue of health with Bryan Woo. If he can stay out there, stay on the mound. And he's done it this year. Some hiccups early on with the injury stuff. And not only has he been out there and making all his starts, he is going deeper into games now. He has become a 6-7 inning pitcher, Whereas before, the stuff was great and he looked good, but 4 1/3, and you had to worry about, is it time to take him out now? And that taxes the bullpen. We even had discussions like, is he going to be better off bullpen guy long term? But not the case, because he has settled in as a rock in this rotation. Obviously, if the Mariners get to the playoffs, they're not going to be able to set their rotation. And the Mariners are a team that probably doesn't really need to set their rotation. I think you feel comfortable with any one of the guys going. I know Kirby struggled of late, but I mean, either way, you're going to feel okay about whoever goes game one. But man, if you could line it up, I'm sure Logan would probably get the nod. You couldn't go wrong with Bryan Woo. You could make a very strong case for him. He has certainly, I think, been the Mariners' most consistent pitcher. Even some of the outings where he hasn't been as good, like that Angels game, I think he still went 6 innings, 4 runs, gave his team a chance to win the ball game. So even when he's not on, he's still keeping you in the game. Just one of the most electric fastballs in baseball. The movement is fantastic. And Bryan Woo is just a perfect example of being in the strike zone, but moving around in the strike zone, not just right down the middle, everything strike, strike, strike. One of the things for George Kirby is he is so much in the zone that it's allowed him to be hit. But Bryan Woo has found that really nice sweet spot. I don't want to turn this in, oh, Woo's above Kirby now. Like, Kirby's been doing it for longer, stayed healthy. But man, Bryan Woo is really put on a masterclass for how to dominate in the strike zone this season. Another outing without a walk, 6 2/3, 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned. He did have 1 walk and 5 Ks. And I will say this, at least the hit he gave up, it wasn't a cheapie. Tatis hit that like 115 off the bat on that home run in the 7th. So I'd rather lose the perfect game with that than a bloop that falls in. A little disappointed that Woo couldn't get through that 7th inning. Not so much a disappointment in him, but just disappointment for him. More so, really would have liked to seen him finish 7 innings there. I think, listen, with a 5-0 lead, when you run into some trouble in those situations, or excuse me, when you're up 5-0, you have a perfect game going, and then you give up the home run, which eliminates the perfecto, the no-hitter, and the shutout. It's got to be a little demoralizing. And you've got a big enough lead where you feel pretty good. So I think it's probably tough for a pitcher to rebound after that. And he seemed to lose, I don't want to say he lost focus, but wasn't as sharp after that Tatis home run. Maybe just a little fatigued, hit a wall. But I really thought he had a shot. And that's a darn good Padres lineup. I believe they lead all of baseball in runs scored. So it's not like he was mowing down the White Sox or anything like that either. That is a tremendous, tremendous Padres lineup that Bryan Woo was fantastic against tonight. So not an easy task. Bullpen did its job. Troy Taylor did give up the base hit to Bogarts, but got a huge strikeout of Jackson Merrill. Not an easy guy to get there. Not only has Merrill been fantastic this season, where's he at stats-wise? 810 OPS, but he's been extremely clutch in late game situations for San Diego as well. So big strikeout there for Taylor. Snyder does his thing in the 8th inning, does give a hit, but gets a strikeout. And Munoz with the tremendous 9th inning, with a tough part in the lineup there with Profar, Machado, and Cronenworth all up. He gets Profar and Machado to strike out, then Cronenworth hits an easy grounder. So Munoz looked really, really sharp tonight. Obviously, like I said, the team's a little banged up. Castillo on the injured list now. I think if you get in the playoffs, you could get him back, but maybe for the last series. But 15-day IL would essentially come really close to ending his year. Jimmy Garcia has been shut down for the rest of the season. Santos is pitching in Tacoma, but didn't even touch 95 yesterday. I'm not sure what's going on with Gabe Spire. So your bullpen has been thin. Thank goodness for Colin Snyder this year and what he's done. But, even more reason why it's so great to see Bryan Woo going deeper into these games, because your pen has not been quite as sharp. I think some of that's out of their control with the injuries. But still, regardless, good to see Bryan Woo going deep. So it's going to have to be all hands on deck here. Emerson Hancock will make a start this weekend against Texas. Listen, I think Hancock is fine in a pinch. Certainly I don't think he's as good as Luis Castillo, but I think he's capable of twirling a couple quality starts for you and keeping you in games. And the offense has been better, right? I mean, certainly since Dan Egger have taken over, very small sample size, but I think they're 4th and 5th in WRC+. I think they're top 5 in runs scored. You could take any offense's best 18-game stretch, and they probably look pretty good overall. So I'm not coming on here to praise them, but it's been better for sure for the offense. Another game today against tough pitcher Michael King. Obviously, that error helped in the 3rd inning. allowed them to score 3 runs, but they had better at bats, got him out after fifth, and added on against the bullpen. All things that this team has had trouble with really all season. And they put together for truthfully a very complete win today. And another win where, I haven't said it much recently, but how this team is built to win, right? Those dominant pitching, bullpen gets it done. Offense kind of does just enough, maybe a little bit more tonight than just enough, but get the job done and get a real nice win. But yeah, Bryan Woo just, I mean, so lights out, and such, like I said, such an easy pitcher on the eyes too. Smooth delivery, doesn't walk guys. Give me those guys any day of the week. A joy to watch. So happy for Bryan Woo. And talk about this season. Listen, it's been a disappointment right now. You still got hope. We'll see. It would be very Mariners to have one of their more disappointing seasons somehow end in their best season. I feel like if the Mariners ever do win a World Series, it's going to be something like that. It's not going to be smooth sailing. But odds would be they don't make the playoffs. You're looking for bright spots, right? Bryan Woo has been one. Bryan Woo has absolutely been something that you can be very positive and feel good about going into 2025. Reasons for hope for the future. And there's more than Bryan Woo, but Bryan Woo would be a big, big reason to have some optimism for the future of this team. So really, really excited to see what he can do down the stretch for this ball club. Let's look at the offense here and talk about their day. 5 hits, but 4 walks, and they put up 5 runs today. Robles 0 for 2 with a walk and a hit by pitch. Robles just can't get out of the way of the ball. He's been hit a bunch. The Mariners have been hit more than any other team this year. Kind of a double-edged sword. You don't want guys getting hurt, but man, the Mariners could use the base runners. So he'd prefer it to be more in the buttocks and in the thigh area where it's easier to recover than area where there's more bone exposure. Is that how you would say it? I don't know. You guys know what I mean. There's less fat and skin protecting you there. So, but Robles on base a couple times today. Pull up the box score again. Julio, very disappointing. Thought Julio had a real nice road trip where he looked like he may be kind of redeeming a lost season a little bit and at least finishing it on a good note. It's 2 games, but not off to a great start in this homestand. Saw some more at-bats that looked more like early season Julio, were just flailing all over the place. The at-bats where if he just wouldn't swing, he would reach. And truthfully should have grounded into 2 double plays today after that brutal one last night. He had the one in the 3rd inning where thankfully Cronenworth dropped the ball, everybody was safe. Then he had another double play later in the game. So, here's the thing for every guy in the Mariners that's had a down season. You're in this thing, you've got 16 games to go. You can be a hero, right? You can redeem a bad season. I'm not trying to tell someone go out and play hero ball where you're just swinging for the fences. But, if Julio can have a great final couple weeks and this team does find a way to get in, all can be forgiven. Now, I get it. Somebody's saying it's not all forgiven. I mean it in the context of like what it would mean for the season for the Mariners. Yes, overall, as we evaluate things, I don't think there's any way to spin this as a good season for Julio, but there's still a chance to have big moments. So hopefully Julio can do that down the stretch. Cal Raleigh, 2 for 4 with an RBI, 92 RBIs. Cal 8 away from 100. Again, talking about Bryan Woo being a positive. Cal already got the 30 home runs. Would love to see him get 100 RBIs on the season. 8, again, RBIs kind of depends on who gets on in front of you, but Cal's definitely got a legitimate shot at that. Rosarina 1 for 4 was robbed of a home run by Tatis, who was kind of a thorn in the side of the Mariners tonight, hitting the home run to break up the perfecto and then robbing a Rosarina. Tough at bat for him in the 3rd. Bases loaded again with 1 out. I thought he missed a 2-0 or 2-1 pitch that he could have driven into the gap. Obviously easier said than done, from my standpoint, but kind of a disappointing at bat in that spot. But good to see the potential home run. Tatis robs. It would have been nice to see that one get out of the ballpark for sure. Luke Raley continues to be solid, 1 for 3, 2 RBI single and a walk. That was a huge 2-run single in the 3rd. King about to get out of that jam, which is giving up the 1 run. Big at bat there by Raley. And again, I've talked about it before, but all the, acquisitions that Jerry has made this offseason and Justin that haven't worked or been disappointing. Luke Raley is one they can hang their hat on. That has been a tremendous acquisition. He's been one of the most consistent hitters on this team all season, if not the most consistent. You probably make a case for Cal as well, but I think you can make a strong case. It's been Luke Raley. Turner 0 for 3 with a walk. Polanco 0 for 4. JP 1 for 3 with a 2 RBI single, ended up being 2 very important runs as the Padres made it a little bit interesting in the 7th inning. JP still, again, disappointing year, but if you're going to get that 1 hit, make it a big one, bring in a couple runs. And then Josh Rojas 0 for 2 with a walk and a run scored. Nice night for the team, obviously. Good W. Bryan Woo, fantastic. You've put yourself in a position where you're going to have a chance here, hopefully. That's all I'm asking. I think that's where most of us are, right? I think the most optimistic outlook you can have is try to get to that Houston series 2 or 3 back. And I think Houston plays a lot more games here than the Mariners do. They have less days off. That's how I should say it. Even last year, Houston did kind of have a little bit of a September collapse. It was just Texas and Seattle both couldn't take advantage of it either. They both struggled. Then Houston finished strong and ended up winning the division. Obviously, Houston's a great baseball team. And again, I'll actually take them over those wild card teams. I think they're better, but the path is just more murky in the wild card race. You've got Detroit and Boston that you have to pass, and Minnesota. You have the tiebreakers against 0 of those teams. And then, Detroit still plays the White Sox. Minnesota plays Boston. So that's a tricky series because it's going to be tough to leapfrog, or it's going to be tough to gain a lot of ground on that wild card spot there. Your best path is the AL West. It is the best path to the playoffs. You don't have to leapfrog anybody. Decent. And here's the thing. If you don't get the tiebreaker against Houston, that's because you didn't win the series, so you're done anyways. So I'm going to say this, and please understand the context I'm saying it. You're going to have the tiebreaker, and you play them 3 more times. So that's your path. That is the most realistic path with 16 games to go for the Seattle Mariners. Are the odds in their favor? No. If you went to Fangraphs right now, I would venture to say the Astros are probably 90% to win the division right now, 80, maybe 88, somewhere in that range. But it is your path, more than likely. We'll keep an eye on the wild card. Again, maybe the Mariners just go on a run here, win 7, 8 in a row, and that becomes in play. And, we'll take it. But the main path is going to be the playoffs. Like I said, remember to hit that like button, comment your thoughts down below. Again, about 30% of the views on these videos for people that aren't subscribed. So hit that sub button. I want to do more lives. It's been tough this year. My job has been a lot tougher now in a good way. It's been great. It just made me a lot more busy. I'm hoping if that Astros series is where they're like 1, 2, 3 games back, I will try and be live for at least game 1, because that'll essentially be a playoff series for the Mariners. If things can go right for them leading up to it, I will try and do a live stream for at least game 1 of that. And then I promise if they get to the playoffs, I'll do some live streams. I really enjoy doing those with all of you. It's just been tough this year. Like I said, my work's been crazy. I get home late. And then, last year I was working from home more. It was a little more remote. It was easier. So I could do live streams because I still had time with my family. I'm a husband, a father of 3. So I can't work all day, come home, put myself in this room for 4 hours, not see my family. So that's just why there haven't been as many live streams this year. It's not anything that I've not wanted to do. It's just been tough for me to be able to do them. But I promise that if they can get something cooking here and get to Houston 2 or 3 back, I'll try to go live for at least game 1 there. While there's hope, there is hope. There is hope. We'll see. Tomorrow, if they lose, the hope might be gone again. They'll play Texas. Texas activates DeGrom and Scherzer for this series. Me and Mariners, sir, we're talking about it. And at first, we were kind of frustrated. Like, really? You're going to activate your best 2 pitchers, for the Mariners, of course. Here's the thing, though. I don't think Scherzer's pitched this year. I know DeGrom hasn't. DeGrom hasn't pitched in well over a year. Scherzer was good last year, but not the same Max Scherzer that we've been accustomed to. They're going to be on pitch counts. There's got to be some rust. It may not be the worst thing in the world to face those guys. So we'll see how it plays out. I know initially I was like, of course, they're going to be back for the Mariners, but it may end up not being the worst case scenario. We'll see. And if they do dominate the Mariners again, we'll go back to Mariners, have nobody to blame but themselves. Play better against the Angels. Don't have to worry about it as much. So we'll see what happens. Have a great night, everybody. Bryan Woo, brilliant tonight. Cannot say enough good things about him. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all tomorrow for the post-game recap. Peace.